For Columbia, a professional basketball executive who is the president of basketball operations of the Minnesota Timberwolves Garcon Roses, it was a defining decision that they could look back on with pride or regret for the next 10 years. Rose has had to study the various ways to justify how Anthony Edwards would be excellent for the Timberwolves. And in this video we will take a look at why Rose's wise decision to select Edwards is positive for the foreseeable future of the Timberwolves franchise. Number 10. Recruiters that recruited hope to recruit Anthony Edwards. After decades of complaining about the streak of bad luck that berated the team, the Wolves finally feel those dark days are over as they bring Anthony Edwards to the Wolfpack. One NBA scouting director advised people trying to break into a front office to become high school recruiting expert. She explained that that's a constantly evolving and murky world, that older executives don't have too little experience. The people who know where the proverbial bags are dropped have a huge advantage, and now senior recruiters are also trying to recruit people with these skill sets. The Wolves executive Roses had required those skills, so he was ahead of the game and already had Edwards on his radar. Plus the Wolves hired Josh Garish of 247 Sports, who is one of the most respected evaluators of high school talent in the country, and even though he commissioned the opinions of other recruiters, they all agree that they should surely take the young Georgia guard Anthony Edwards with the first pick. Now he's gonna take a deep three.
Now he's gonna take a deep three.
Number 9. Recruiters have many paths to acquire Edwards. Although it was delayed multiple times because of the coronavirus pandemic, Edwards was taken by the Minnesota Timberwolves with the number 1 pick. In the NBA draft, I feel like when I get off here I'm getting emotional, and I'm just blessed to be on measures to be in this situation. And there wasn't a need to overthink their decision, even if they felt Edwards wasn't exactly what they expected. They could trade him for a plug-and-play wing that can shoot the three and improve the Wolves' defense. Or they could have traded down, picked up an asset or two, and still get Edwards at the lower pick yet. Their recruitment strategies were not needed. When they had the chance to get Edwards, they did not hesitate. Number 8. Edwards' potential will complement the entire team. To capitalize on this good fortune, Roses needed to pick a player who will complement and elevate Townsend Russell, or act as an asset to bring the Wolves that caliber of player. I think the potential is endless. You talk about an individual with his physical features, with his athletic features, with his ability to impact on offense, and potentially on a defender. Said he ultimately viewed Edwards head and shoulders who was above the rest of the class. This was evident as the Georgia product took matters into his own hands during his pre-draft workout with the Wolves. According to Roses, the trainer walked Edwards through the shooting portion of his routine in the middle of the workout, which included multiple long two-pointers and mid-range jumpers. After he was done, Edwards told him to take those shots out of the workout because the analytics-minded Wolves wouldn't want him taking too many of them. Morose Slater told reporters Coach Rince Under and I were just sitting on the side of the court. We didn't even say anything, and this is just a simple preview of how Edwards is already a compliment to his team. Now Edwards is already having dinner with the Wolves Brain Trust, where they have long conversations about their offensive philosophy and the role they envision forwards or their projections for him to complement the strengths and weaknesses of their current players. Number 7. Edwards is better than the competition. Anthony Edwards surely was the better choice with the number 1 overall pick than LaMelo Ball, who doesn't play defense, after the Minnesota Timberwolves got the pick in the draft lottery. It came down to a decision between Edwards or Ball for the top selection. Many people thought LaMelo Ball would be ideal. He's 6'7", can break down defensive scores in the lane, and has impressive passes. People suspected that Ball would be an ideal complement to Russell because that could give the Wolves the ability to run and attack defenses in a variety of ways in their half-court offense, and actually there were a number of wise draft evaluators who were promoting Ball as the best player, or at least the most desirable number 1 pick in the draft class, yet the Wolves executive understood two main factors. First of all, Ball isn't just a bad defender, but he's also an apathetic defender. He doesn't even try in the whole scheme of the game. Secondly, his shot mechanics are almost as bad as his defensive effort. Of course, it is possible that he could become a better shooter, but who wants to speculate on guessing if that could ever be realized? And since he doesn't seem to care about defense, one must question if he cares to better himself and his team. Number 6. Wolves need to build a roster for the future. Roses has currently said that when you have the number 1 pick and are building a roster, you need to draft talent, not positional fit, but this year the best fit was quite talented, and that surely made the decision even easier. According to the Wolves front office, Edwards has the proverbial NBA body. He can score. He can punish smaller defenders, and although he also needs to improve his three-point shooting, he is much less of a project than Ball. Edwards is willing and able to play defense, and his strengths will be a major asset on defense for the team and the NBA in general. We feel like we've got something very special here with Anthony Edwards. Number 5. Ideal offensive player. When it comes to offense, Edwards would be an ideal fit in the Wolves pack plus. Edwards' offense play is the same position as Millie Beasley, and unfortunately Beasley has been having some legal woes, making him a difficult player to rely on or even invest big money on. Although many people bring up James Wiseman because he could wind up being the best player in the draft. He doesn't want to play for the Wolves, and the Wolves don't want to play with two centers. So Edwards might be the best player in the draft for the Wolves, as he is the safest pick for them. Number 4. His youth. Edwards became the 11th straight one-and-done player to be the number 1 pick. He averaged 19.1 points for the Bulldogs. Although a third of the NBA called about the number 1 pick, Minnesota ultimately couldn't pass on his top-ranked prospect. Edwards grew up in Atlanta and played 1 season of college basketball. He's young even by the standard of one-and-done players, as he recently turned 19. In August, which makes him the 4th youngest player in this class. Edwards was able to skip his senior year of high school and entered college a year early, but while his youth made evaluating him even more difficult, it is also one of the reasons why the Wolves were quick to pick him. The teenager grew an inch during the pre-draft process and is now 6'6" and 230 pounds with a 6'10" wingspan. He's projected to be one of the strongest and most powerful shooting guards in the NBA. According to Roses, his physical and athletic tools for that position and that profile in the NBA are just freakish. He stood head and shoulders above any player in this draft, and we were excited to be at number 1 to be able to select him. Number 3. Best among the consensus of the top 3 picks. The consensus of the top 3 picks came down to Edwards, LaMelo Ball, and James Wiseman. So few teams around the NBA envied the decision Minnesota president Garcon Roses had to make. However, one fact that made that decision easier was the fact that Edwards is the only one who actually played in a competitive basketball game in 2020. Ball played 12 games in Australia before injuring his foot last November, while Wiseman had only played 3 games for Memphis before NCAA eligibility issues ended his season. Plus, in a draft class filled with uncertainty and a questionable amount of star talent, Edwards was the one with the most aptitude to have long-term success. Wiseman and Ball showed promise, but much of their hype is how people project they will get better over time. The Wolves' head offense understood that. Edwards' game translates now, and even more importantly, it will match perfectly with what Minnesota is building. We looked at the other guys there, and they also could have fit with us. Fit helps in the long term, but in the short term it's just about evaluating the best talent. Number 2. His inner strength. We're all familiar with Edwards' physical talents and capabilities. He was averaging 19.1 points, 5.2 rebounds, and 2.8 assists per game, and although the Bulldogs finished with a 16-16 record, which is a terrible mark for a college team with a future NBA lottery pick, the Wolves saw beyond those numbers and focused on the young man's overall devices and the whole scheme of their franchisee. Love his edge, I love his toughness, his grit. Roses told The Ringer after the draft what he has overcome his motivation to be successful in life. I love that he's a multi-sport natural athlete who is smart and bright and intelligent and at the same time young, raw and naive to life. Roses continued to praise Edwards, stating he was very honest and very transparent about who he is and who he is not. He's a young guy who's got a lot of work to do and a long way to go, and he's very realistic about who he is and the work he has to do. Number 1. Versatile on the floor. What makes Edwards the most exciting is that he has the skills to go with his physical gift. He can create his own shot from any part of the floor and has demonstrated really effective playmaking abilities with the Bulldogs. By most accounts, many consider Edwards one of the top pro-ready prospects. His physique is that of an NBA player, and he has versatile skill set that is also made for NBA backcourts. As of now, the Timberwolves court consists of Karl Anthony Towns and D'Angelo Russell. The other top 2 options in the draft played those exact same positions, and everyone else on the roster is likely expendable. According to recruiters, Edwards fully fits in as an off-the-ball guard that will attack the rim but can also strike from deep range, and this has been a notable weakness for Minnesota Timberwolves. What are some other pros and cons of Minnesota's choice man Anthony Edwards? Are you in agreement with their overall assessment? Leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and ring the notification bell.